So let's continue with our next topic, regenerative agriculture. Please welcome to the live TV studio, Yoann Regent, Head of Sustainable Sourcing and Nature Initiatives at Kering, and Gilles Baraize, Project Manager at Epiterre. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my first question, from cotton to wool or leather to cashmere, most clothing starts out as a raw material on a farm or a rangeland. For this reason, the future of the fashion industry is inextricably linked with the future of agriculture, right? So as a main player in the fashion industry, how does Kering preserve biodiversity, and what are the key pillars of your strategy?
As you highlighted, biodiversity and nature are very important to Kering and are crucial to Kering. Nature is an infinite source of inspiration for designers, for brands, or creative teams. But also nature, as you said, is the source of the raw material we use. The wool, the cotton, the leather, they come from landscapes that need to be preserved if we want to have cotton, wool, and leather in the future. It's not only, I want to say, a sustainability question, it's actually also a business imperative. So for this reason, it's just a no-brainer for Kering to support biodiversity and nature. As such, as highlighted in our biodiversity strategy, we have an ambition to regenerate 1 million hectares in the landscape, rangelands, farm, forest that matches our supply chain, so meaning in the supply chain of cotton, wool, leather, viscose, etc., but also to protect and preserve 1 million hectares of high-value ecosystems such as old-growth forest, mangrove or coral reefs that, even though they are not directly linked with the supply chain, are just imperatives to preserve.
So what is the definition of regenerative agriculture and how does it work?
So before jumping into this question, so we framed regenerative agriculture in the scope of our Regenerative Fund for Nature, which is basically the operational arm to reach this objective of 1 million regenerative hectares by 2025. The fund aims at restoring these rangelands and farms in the raw material supply chain of 4 materials: cotton, leather, cashmere, and wool. As part of the first round of projects, together with our partner Conservation International, we have identified 7 projects in 6 key countries that are supporting to reach this goal of regeneration. And so to your question about what is regenerative agriculture, I'm going to disappoint you because there is not one definition of regenerative agriculture. The reason is that it's a framework that aims at creating positive outcomes on biodiversity and nature. As such, it's highly dependent on the context. So it's going to depend on your land, climate, soil, the type of crop or livestock you're rearing on the soil. So it's very difficult, and you should be very careful when trying to define it. That being said, as part of the fund, we've decided to identify 5 key pillars that support these outcomes. The first one being around soil health, so making sure that you preserve the soil functionality and that you capture carbon in the soil. Preserving biodiversity is the second pillar, not only species but also their habitat. The third pillar is focusing on eliminating as much as possible chemical synthetic inputs. And 2 pillars that are often, I think, overlooked when speaking about regenerative agriculture are farmer livelihoods, because you also need to consider the people in the system, but then also animal welfare, because most of the systems include animals, so you should make sure that they are properly treated. But I'd like to hear Gilles on maybe his definition of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, thank you, Yoann. I agree with your speech. To my mind, regenerative agriculture is a philosophy of agricultural production and a set of adaptable techniques strongly influenced by permaculture. Okay, and its aim goals are to regenerate soil, to protect or to increase biodiversity, of course, and to optimize the water cycle and so on. It's a definition broad. It's a broad definition, and therefore I think we could compare its definition by the definition better known of agroecology. That's what I think, and we could support and sequester atmospheric carbon and so on. It's infinite.
I mean, I guess it's really like caring, but on a long-term scale, isn't it? Really investing in agriculture on every level, be it from the farmer to the actual soil, to have a long-term, effect rather than getting immediate results. It's really kind of, putting the time and effort in to work on the soil, biodiversity, and farmers, for example, which takes time and money. But it's obviously something that Kering holds close to their heart and finds very important for them as well.
Absolutely, and it's crucial actually to finance this transition because very often companies, brands want to purchase the material that is already regenerative, certified, whatever, but you need to help the producer to break this barrier in order to reach this stage. So we can speak about, of course, financial support that can be done through ecosystem service agreement. And I know that Gilles will speak about this because it's something that Epiterre has developed. It's very innovative way to pay for the farmers for the service they give to nature. But it's also technical support. So together with our partner at Conservation International, we want to provide technical expertise to these farmers in order to regenerate their lands. And finally, a third objective of the fund is also actually to start creating market connections, so market links, because some of these producers don't necessarily know where to sell their wool, know where to sell the hides. So I think that's also where we have a role to play. Today, we are not necessarily connected to these suppliers, but we want to help them creating ties to the luxury industry.
So you're providing accompaniment as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. So, I mean, what support have you seen being given to the farmers? What do you mean concretely?
First of all, Epiterre is a brand and a company which is permitting to sell environmental services and based on a fair remuneration. This is the aim goal. And next, and originally, we have to create a framework, a concept, with an innovative tool, legal tool, which is the ESC, in French CPSE, environmental services contract, and it's permitting to make the link between public actors or companies and to offer a turnkey offer to the farmers who wants to act for environment, to change their practices, to make a lot of new practices, and it permits to support the risk. That's what I think.
Okay, so what about animal welfare? Is that part of your strategy at all?
Absolutely. So as I highlighted, animal welfare is the fifth pillar of our definition of regenerative agriculture. But we started working with animal welfare well before that. Back in 2019, we launched the first of the industry ever animal welfare standards, who highlight all of the practices that have to be implemented in all other animal-based supply chain, raw material supply chains. These are really ambitious. So they start, the minimum entry level is at EU legislation, which you might think, what's the point then? But you need to think that we are sourcing internationally. So implementing EU legislation in, let's say, South Africa is already a challenge. But then the gold level and the goal that we want to achieve is really ambitious, is really working at ensuring the best practices when it comes to animal welfare. So it's key. We cannot have systems that are dependent on animals, but then not taking care of these animals. These standards have been developed with scientific experts, NGOs, and on the field, they are being operatively implemented through either audits from our own teams in the supply chain of leather and wool, or through recognition of existing third-party certifications that uphold this high level of animal welfare.
And working alongside Kering, Gilles, what kind of collaboration would you like to develop with the group?
Oh.
Be nice.
Yeah, good question. We hope to have a really sustainable collaboration, efficient, in fact, a real collaboration. I think, first of all, we share some objectives with the sustainable development, for example, with principles like economy, of course, but also ecology and social. That's what we are. We share. So, and why not a new project with animal welfare, for example? It's quite possible, I think. This is another story.
For another day.
It
seems to be a very kind of healthy ecosystem that you've put in place here, with a kind of very holistic, like collaboration between you. And I think that's what's great to see, that Kering is investing and using its knowledge and financial help to kind of invest in and to assist and accompany farmers. So I think that's on a long-term scale as well. So I wish you all the best with your project, and with Epiterre. You actually have a booth here, don't you?
Yeah.
So you can go by and meet Gilles and his team, who will be there ready to answer any questions in English and in French. They'd be more than happy. Well, thank you very much to both of you, and thank you for being with us here today.